Hi, it's Steve Hargadon, and welcome to Teacher Entrepreneurship Week. It's the first night, Monday, and our guest is Alice Keeler. Welcome, Alice.
Hi.
Thanks so much to TES for sponsoring this interview series. Please do visit their educational resources marketplace at tes.com. Alice, so glad to see you and hear from you.
Always. Thanks.
I'm going to read your short bio. Alice Keeler is a Google for Education certified innovator, member of the Horizon Report Advisory Panel, author of the book 50 Things You Can Do with Google Classroom, and she's an ed tech blogger. And your teaser for Teacher Entrepreneurship was, Teacher Entrepreneurship is recognizing needs in education and creating and sharing solutions. Sure feels like you have done that.
With spreadsheets.
With just spreadsheets, that's it.
Pretty much just spreadsheets. No, I mean I enjoy blogging and sharing, and so when I'm doing something, and I think, okay, I need this resource or something, then I'll make it, and then usually with some sort of a Google tool, and then I feel like when I share something, I multiply my efforts if other people use it. So I always put my stuff out there.
So talk about sort of your personal transformation. Where were you as a teacher before, and then sort of how did becoming an entrepreneur sort of shift what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started out, I didn't even want to be a teacher. I specifically said I was not going to take the classes. I have a degree in math. I wasn't going to take the special math classes that allowed you to go straight into teaching. And so, yeah, I have a degree in math. So, like, someone just offered me a job to teach, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds good, full-time work. And so I remember my very first week of teaching that I gave the kids zeros, and I thought that'll teach them because they just didn't do the homework the way that I thought they should. And, they just did not respond to that in the way that I had interpreted. And so I always teach kids like freshman algebra or lower, and kids that just really struggle. And what I've noticed is that what traditional things that we try to do in terms of homework and grading just turn kids off. So that's really my journey, is like, I got to connect for these kids. How can I do something different? How can I iterate to get kids who hate math, who hate school, who don't want to be there, how to get them to love math and be successful? So for 14 years, I taught math, and by the time I got down to the end, I'm really doing some wacky things. I realized that doing grades, turn kids off, giving kid an F doesn't motivate them to want to keep working. So I have to get rid of that system. How can I take into games? I really fell into playing World of Warcraft. I didn't want to. I had to do it as a class requirement for my master's. And then I think that is where I get the majority of my pedagogy from, is from playing video games, because that motivates you. And so how can I apply that to motivate kids? So I think about leveling up and recognizing students and valuing their strengths, and then a game gives you a challenge that's just above your ability level but within your reach. So how do I give every kid a challenge that's just above their ability level but within their reach? And without technology, it is crazy hard to differentiate. And so trying to come up with solutions for individualizing kids' education, helping them to level up and to give them choices, really takes some technology know-how, I think. And so then that's something that I share with others, like, I'm doing this, and then they get excited. So then I, of course, want to, like, well, let me set you up with that. And so I would send out tips over email of different things that I was doing, and teachers would tell me, Alice, I have an Alice folder. And I had lots of teachers, like, I have an Alice folder. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I started suggesting that, hey, why don't you make an Alice folder from my emails? And so a lot of people on campus did that. And then I started just like putting it on a blog, because then I don't have to answer the same question over and over again. So when someone asks me a question, I can just link them to the website. So that's really where I got started, was people telling me that what I was sharing was valuable, and me finding a way to capture some of the tips that people were asking me about.
Did you have to go through any kind of a personal transformation to becoming more of an agent or creator?
I think I've always just been someone that's willing to push buttons. When I was in the credential program, they said, we have this giant LCD projector, and we have PowerPoint. If anyone wants to use it, I'm like, I don't know what PowerPoint is, but I'm doing it. And so unlike everybody else, I'm jumping in and trying to do something new. So I get back to my school site where I'm teaching. I'm like, do you guys know what PowerPoint is? So I think I've just always been someone who wants to try something new, but I don't think I'm answering your question right.
Well, let's try a different angle. So you're in New Jersey right now. I'm guessing you're speaking to a group of teachers or doing some kind of professional development activity. Do you sort of consciously recognize that there are teachers for whom it's a little bit scary to think of becoming creators?
It's totally scary. So, and I put a lot of stuff out there, and I think that might be intimidating, saying like, you can do this too, because I put out such a large volume of things. And so I constantly am just talking to people. If you don't have something to share, I feel sorry for your kids. Of course you have something to share. You're doing good things in your classroom, and you can start small. Just sending out a small tweet. What's awesome is just to share a picture of your classroom, and like, these are my walls. I love seeing pictures of teachers' classrooms. It just gives me so many ideas. And just doing little things to say, I'm going to go talk to the teacher next to me, share what you're doing. And so I think that's a message that I try and get across when I'm talking to large groups and just one-on-one individuals. It is very challenging for people to want to take that leap. It's kind of scary. Even me, like, people ask me like, Alice, can I see your class website? Because one of the things that I really think every teacher should have a really good classroom website. I call it a digital haversack. And that's where you put your whole agenda. It's not just the place your syllabus goes to die, but where you're structuring out your lessons. I basically do my lesson plans in there. So people are like, can I see yours? And even I just like, I don't want you to see my lesson plans. I just feel like I'm opening myself up for criticism about my, I'm trying to say that I know some things about teaching, so don't look at my teaching. So I get that. It can be intimidating. So starting small, sharing with just the people in your grade level, or just one other teacher, can be a good way to just kind of break that barrier and realize that people learn so much from seeing what other people are doing.
Make a connection between those acts of teachers and the world students are moving into.
Well, my son, I got him Minecraft, and I said, son, can I help you with this? And he said, no, I watch videos on YouTube. I got this. And I think that's what I get more often than not when I try and work with my kids, is they're like, I looked it up online. I looked up these videos, YouTube. My kids love YouTube. But more than that, my son is then making his own YouTube videos. When he was 6, he says, Mom, can I borrow the iTouch? And I'm like, okay. So he goes and comes back in a little bit, and he's like, I made these videos. Do you want to see them? I'm like, you made videos? Who showed you how to do that? And I'm like, do you want to upload them to YouTube? He goes, oh, that's all I ever wanted. And he's 6. And so, having that voice of people to share their stuff with. My son is an extreme introvert. I mean, painfully shy introvert. But he wants to create things and put it out on YouTube, which is bizarro to me. But I see kids with that expectation that they already have social media and ways to express their voice, and then they come to school and their voice and their opinion doesn't matter. They don't get to be creative in the same ways. And so really understanding that kids need an outlet to share what they're doing, I think it's a really good way to do that is to model that and embrace what they do.
How important is it for teachers to be able to connect with other teachers?
I can't even imagine doing this job where you shut the door and don't talk to anybody. The learning curve, the amount of technology is exponential. There is no way you can keep up on teaching if you're trying to do this yourself. And with different technology tools, like I use a lot of Google products, being able to just share and like, oh, here's my lesson plan, or here's my ideas, this is what my kids are doing. This is a project my kids have. Can you guys come back and comment on them to give students that voice? It just makes everything easier when you're not in it alone. I mean, how many days have you spent as a teacher where you are just crying in the corner? I teach teachers now, and I'm just like, your first year, you will cry, right? This job is hard. And I don't know how you can get all your content and do engaging dynamic lessons that include technology and differentiate for all the students and take into account ELs if you are trying to do it all yourself. So as Harry Wong said, steal, steal, steal. And I steal a lot off of Twitter, and I'm on there all day long because people are giving away free information that I can then use to better my teaching practice.
So I know what your schedule's been like lately because I've been talking about it with you to schedule this event.
Yeah, that's all right.
But How do you create balance in your life when there's this additional world of sharing?
I don't have balance. um, I'm getting a doctorate, and I have 5 kids, and I blog every day, and I have a job where I teach at a university, and I do consulting and working with teachers. That's pretty much all that I have time for. So I do sleep. I value that a lot.
Let's turn the tables on that one as well then. So what advice would you give to teachers who feel like, how do I enter this world without being completely overwhelmed?
I think the best way to do it is just to be in the habit of doing your stuff on a platform that makes it easy to share. So if I do it on a Google Doc, or if I do my lesson plans on my blog, I don't keep my lesson plans in a separate book. What I'm doing is in a platform that's easy to share. So then I can just throw the links out on Twitter or email them out to friends. And I think it's hardly even extra work, because that person will then, other people will share back with you what they're doing. So even though I have to put a little extra effort, I actually get more back.
So the word entrepreneurship carries kind of a business connotation. And you certainly have become sort of a business. You have your own logo, right? So you're sort of Alice. How can you be an entrepreneur if you're not as interested in becoming a business, but you do want to share and you do want to sort of expand a little?
But an entrepreneur is not necessarily, I mean, you can be an entrepreneur in nonprofit. You're just trying to get something out there, right? As an entrepreneur, you think of how you've got something to innovate and you've got a new idea and you're going to execute it. So I forgot the question.
So how do you do it without sort of feeling like you have to go full-blown logo, Alice logo?
Oh, yeah. People ask me how they be me, and I just laugh at them. Don't try and be me. That's that's a journey. I started with just sharing things on email. My brother's a graphic designer, so he makes me a logo. But you don't need to brand yourself to share your ideas. And I love just all these people that they'll just share stuff informally. I mean, just sharing on a tweet. If you tweet frequently or put out on social media, like, my kids are doing this awesome activity, you're getting your message out there. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. Just the willingness to say, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing, and have it, it's also a little bit of accountability to say, I'm going to really think about stuff that I want to share so I can do that with my kids. And it's win-win in a cycle.
Nice. Okay, 2 minutes left. Give a pitch for the book.
I wrote the book, 50 Things You Can Do with Google Classroom, with Libby Miller, and it is not a step-by-step how-to guide, which, thank goodness, since Google today updated Google Classroom, so yay! But of course, all my screenshots are out of date. So I'm working on an update on that. But it's really giving you ideas for how you can use technology, because technology is not just throwing PDFs online. So these are activities and ideas that you can do with students. And it's available on Amazon.
Okay, besides your book, give us another book recommendation.
Teach Like a Pirate. It will change your life, hands down. I made it required reading for my students, and it's made all the difference in the world.
One educational thinker that people should go follow.
Steve Hargadon.
Oh, that was just too loaded a question. I promise. I was not fishing.
No.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry. Then ask it again. The person.
Someone to follow. An educational thinker to follow.
Gosh, there's so many good ones. You're putting me on the spot. Vicki Davis.
Nice. Okay. And a final piece of advice for aspiring teacher entrepreneurs.
Share, and don't be embarrassed to get out there. I share first and I edit second. So I push the publish button, and I've got typos and I have grammar errors, and I think it's more important to share than be perfect.
Terrific. Alice, I know you had to push an appointment back to be here. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks to Tez at TES.com for sponsoring this series. Thanks to Alice Keeler for coming on. Take care, everybody. Bye now.